Hello and welcome to the Sports Empire AFC North predictions video. Today we're going to be doing, like I said, a prediction video of the AFC North standings and game-by-game prediction. So we'll be going through the Steelers, Bengals, Browns, Ravens, and predicting game-by-game who we think is going to win, and then by the end of it we'll know who won the standings in the AFC North. So let's get right into that. And after this video, I'd like to make a video for each division. And then after that, we'd be able to, predict the playoffs, because we'd have all the standings from every division. So we'd be able to do all the playoff games, and then we can do the Super Bowl and predict who's a Super Bowl contender and who will win the Super Bowl. So yeah, let's get right to the AFC North, starting with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, so Pittsburgh Steelers game 1, they have to play the Buffalo Bills. That's not a great draw the very first game. I think the Steelers could potentially be a really good team. I think they're an undervalued team, might be a little bit biased, but I think they have a lot of potential. But drawing the Bills early, that's not a great team to draw early. The Steelers are going to have new pieces in Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, and they got a few picks on the O-line in the draft. I don't know if they'd be playing right away or not. Probably not. But also a new offensive coordinator, which is a big deal. So I think that's too much new stuff to overcome against the Bills the very first week. So I'm going to give the win to the Bills there. Steelers and Raiders. The Steelers, for some reason, never do that well against the Raiders in the regular season. But even though a lot of the offensive weapons will still be kind of new, I think the Steelers are just that much better than the Raiders. So I have the Steelers winning this one. The Bengals. The Steelers pass rush against the Bengals offensive line. That's really all you need to say there. Joe Burrow. They did address the offensive line in the draft, even though it was like in the second round. They kind of waited a good while for that, because they could have drafted someone like Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater, and they went with Jamar Chase instead. So Joe Burrow is really still not that well protected, so I'm going to go with the Steelers again here. Steelers-Packers is a little bit of a tricky one, because we don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to play for the Packers or not this year. It kind of seems like, if anything, he's going to sit out a year and then go to some other team the next year, or even go to a different team this year. I don't see him coming back for the Packers either way, so I'm going to give the win to the Steelers here. And here's another tricky situation again, because the Aaron Rodgers situation. Will he be playing for the Broncos next year? I still think he sits out a year. I'm not sure how he'd be playing for the Broncos this year. If he was playing for the Broncos this year, I think I'd probably give it to the Broncos, but I'm not sure that he does. So I'm going to give Pittsburgh another win here. Seattle Seahawks, kind of in a similar situation as the Bengals. Their offensive line isn't that great, but Seahawks is still a good team led by Russell Wilson, so I think I'm going to give the win to the Seahawks here. And coming off a bye week, the Pittsburgh Steelers had to play the Cleveland Browns. I think that the playoff loss to the Browns is an exception, not, a common thing. The Steelers, by the end of the season, they were just not a good team. They were completely falling apart, and the offensive coordinator, Randy Fichtner, was terrible. Everybody knew exactly what plays the Steelers were going to run. So I wouldn't take too much out of that loss, and especially after a bye week, I think the Steelers get the win here. And also, early in the season last year, the Steelers blew out the Browns, so that's another thing to consider. But after a bye week, I think that's a big win for the Steelers. Steelers against Chicago. I'm not sure when Justin Fields will be playing. I figure Andy Dalton will start the season and Justin Fields takes over at some point. Either way, though, it's either Andy Dalton or Justin Fields will have just started recently, and I think it'll take him a while to really adjust to playing in the NFL, so I'm going to give it to the Steelers. Even though the Lions are on a bye week, coming off a bye week for the Steelers game, the Lions are going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL next year. They really don't have much of anything. They had a really good draft, mostly in the trenches, but they're still definitely a rebuilding team, so it should be an easy win for the Steelers. Steelers at Chargers, that's kind of a tough one. Justin Herbert is obviously had a great season last year. I think the Steelers are a very good team. Chargers have a very good roster. This is more of like a toss-up game. And I've had the Steelers winning quite a bit. So I'm going to give it to the Chargers here. I think the Steelers sweep the Bengals this year. Because I don't think the Bengals will be a very good team. So I'm going to give it to the Steelers. Here's a toughie. Steelers against Ravens. Steelers swept the Ravens last year. You know, Lamar was injured for one of those games. But I think at home, I'm going to give it to the Steelers. Lamar, when he has played the Steelers, he's struggled a good bit. So I'm going to give it to the Steelers. Vikings, I think Vikings will be one of those improved teams next year. So they're not going to be an easy out. But I think the Steelers is kind of a team that's like made to be able to beat a team like the Vikings. The biggest threat for the Vikings is Dalvin Cook, and the Steelers should be able to stop their run game fairly well. So I'm going to go with the Steelers here. Similar situation with the Titans. They have Derrick Henry. Steelers were able to do a good job against Derrick Henry. They lost Corey Davis, but this is kind of a toss-up here too. But I'm going to give it to the Steelers on this one too. Steelers-Chiefs, that's a little bit rough. You know, Chiefs really don't have flaws at all, so I'm going to give it to the Chiefs here. Steelers-Browns, I think it's going to be a split here. I think the Browns are going to win this one. Steelers won the last one off a bye, and the Browns are going to win against the Steelers here. Same thing for the Ravens. I think it's going to be a split. I don't think it's going to be a sweep. So I'm having this Ravens losing this one. Kind of sucks for the Steelers to lose the last three games, but that's how the schedule panning out. So the Steelers will be going 11-6 on the season. Possibly could win the division with that, but we'll see. Because next we'll be going with the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, Ravens play the Raiders to start the season. The Raiders will be a decent team. They'll probably compete for a playoff, but the Ravens are just a superior team, especially early in the season, so I'm going to go with the Ravens. Lamar struggled against top teams so far, and the Chiefs are, of course, one of those, and I think it was pretty stupid. The Ravens traded Orlando Brown to the Chiefs, which helped them out majorly, so they kind of buried their own grave here, so they're going to lose to the Chiefs. The Lions are going to be bad, so that's a win for the Ravens. Broncos, I don't think it'll be Aaron Rodgers playing. It'll probably be Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater. Doesn't mean it's an easy out. The Broncos still have a solid roster, but I'm going to give it to the Ravens here. It'll be Carson Wentz playing for the Colts. I don't think Carson Wentz will be too good, and he'll still be new into the season, so I'm going to give it to the Ravens. This will be a tough one. Justin Herbert and Chargers have a good roster, but I think the Ravens will pull out this one. Ravens-Bengals, already kind of discussed the Bengals. After the bye week, Ravens play the Vikings. This would be a very hard-fought game, I think, but the fact that the Ravens come off a bye week for this game, I'm going to give it to the Ravens. Ravens-Dolphins, another one. That's kind of a tough one. The Dolphins Dolphins are getting up there. They're not quite a top team yet, but they're moving up pretty fast. But Tua's still not there yet, and playing against the Ravens defense, that's going to be a tough one for them, so I'm going to go with the Ravens. Justin Fields will still probably be a fresh quarterback off the bench. They are coming off a bye week, and the Bears' defense is pretty tough, but I think I'll give this one to the Ravens too. Ravens at Browns. This one isn't an easy game by any means. The Browns seem like they're going to be a contending team for the next few years at least. The Browns are finally, a good team again. They haven't been one since, the pre-Super Bowl era, really. So I'm going to give this one to the Ravens still at home. We already picked this game against the Steelers. Then the Browns are going to come back after a bye week and beat the Ravens in this one. Packers, without Aaron Rodgers, I think Ravens should win this one pretty easily. Jordan Love is just not going to be that great if he's the quarterback this year. Even the Packers have kind of said he's not ready yet, so I think the Ravens are going to win that one. I think the Ravens are going to sweep the Bengals. Ravens, I think the Rams, personally, might even be the best team out of the NFC this year, even though the Bucs just won the Super Bowl. The Rams are loaded. So I'm going to pick the Rams here against the Ravens. I think that'll be a very tough defense for Lamar Jackson to play against. So, yeah. And I have the Ravens winning against the Steelers. So the Ravens are 12-5, which actually beats out the Steelers. So the Ravens are currently number 1 in the AFC North. Okay, now on to the Cleveland Browns. Actually, let's go to the Bengals. So we're kind of saving the Browns for last. Because, let's be honest, the Bengals aren't winning the AFC North. So let's make it a little bit interesting and save the Browns for last. The Bengals aren't a great team. Their offensive line is still weak. They are bringing Jonah Williams back next year. He didn't really get to play last year. And they are bringing in Jackson Carman. But their offensive line is still kind of weak. I think Vikings are going to be too tough early on. This game's pretty interesting because it'll likely be Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton against the Bengals, too. That'd be a pretty interesting game. I think the Bears' defense would be pretty tough against that O-line. So I'm going to go with the Bears here. Already did this game. Bengals Jaguars. This is a toughie. The Jaguars would be starting Trevor Lawrence, likely week 1. So he'll have played a few games by then. Jaguars still kind of rebuilding team. Same as the Bengals. But it seems like the Jaguars have the better roster at this point. We're not really sure how Urban Meyer will be as the NFL head coach. And Joe Burrow should be doing pretty good by week 4. He played well last year before he got injured. This is a tough one. I accidentally clicked on the Bengals for week 1. I might go Jaguars here. Packers, Bengals. Listen, the Packers aren't going to be that good next year, but I don't think they'll lose to the Bengals. I'll go Packers. Bengals, Lions. Listen, the Bengals aren't that great, but the Lions are even worse. So I'm going to go with the Bengals in this one. The Bengals get their first win of the season. Bengals lost to the Ravens already. Bengals, Jets. That one's kind of tough because, these are both rebuilding teams. Zach Wilson will probably be playing by then. But I'm going to give this one to the Bengals, too. The Jets' defense isn't that great. They do have a defensive-minded head coach. But I think Joe Burrow, the advantage over Joe Burrow for Zach Wilson in this game would be a decent gap, I'd say. And he is getting in some new weapons this year. I think the Bengals offense should be better than the Jets offense. So I'm going to go with the Bengals. Bengals at home after a Jets win against the Browns. I think the Bengals could be sneaky here against the Browns, but I think I'm going to give this one to the Browns. This is another sneaky one. Bengals off a bye. I think this is a game where the Bengals can kind of sneak up on a team, especially at the bye. So I'm going to have the Bengals beating the Raiders. Chargers-Bengals, this could be another sneaky game, but I think the Chargers are they're just a better team than the Bengals, so I'm going to go Chargers here. 49ers, who knows if they'll be playing Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo by here. Probably Trey Lance. And the 49ers roster is a lot more complete team if they're healthy. So I'm going to go with the 49ers. The Broncos also have a very solid roster. Doesn't really matter who's the quarterback. It's just a lot better roster. And it's at Denver, which is a very tough place to play. So I'm going to go Denver. Ravens already won this game. Chiefs, easy. By this point in the season, maybe the Browns are kind of already, in the playoff picture. So they're not, as concerned with this game. But I think the Bengals at least sneak up on one of these AFC North teams. And that's going to be the Browns. So the Bengals are going to go 4-13 next season. Now for the Browns. Do they win the AFC North? Well, let's find out. The Browns are kind of the sacrificial lamb. Okay, now on to the Browns to find out if they'll win the AFC North or not. So the Browns are kind of the sacrificial lamb in the NFL. Week 1 have to play the Chiefs. They did play them close last year in the playoffs, but you got to think the Chiefs, it's just tough. And it's going to be at the Chiefs, so I have to go to the Chiefs here. The Texans, I think, are going to be absolutely dreadful next year. Kind of go with the Browns here. Bears are probably going to be rocking with Andy Dalton this point in the season, and the Browns should be well equipped to take down the Bears in this situation, especially if it's Andy Dalton. Browns Vikings, like I said, Vikings, I think they're going to be pretty tough next year. At the Vikings, I think, this one's, I think I might go with Vikings here, even though I do think the Browns are going to be, even though the Browns were good last year, I think they are going to take another, step up this year, but at Minnesota, that's not an easy task. Browns Chargers, this one's a toss-up too. Justin Herbert is a great quarterback. They have a great roster. But I think I'm going to give this one to the Cleveland Browns, I think after last year, they'll be a feisty team this year. So I'm going to have them beating the Chargers. This one's an interesting one too. Cardinals. I think Cardinals are another team that makes a step up this year. A lot of people thought Cardinals would be in the playoffs last year, including me. But the Cardinals have been kind of so-so last year. Kyler Murray will be great next year as well. I think the Browns will get this one, though. Broncos, like I said, have a nice roster. I'm going to give this one to the Browns, though, too. Browns-Patriots. Bill Belichick is obviously a good coach. But maybe it'll be Cam Newton here. Maybe it'll be Mac Jones. But with the uncertainty at quarterback, either way, I think the Browns should be good in this one. Even though it is at Foxborough, I'm going to give this one to the Browns. Browns Lions, I'm going to go Browns. Browns Raiders. This might be one of those ones where the Raiders sneak up on someone. Because the Raiders are a decent team. They're not a top team. They're not a bad team. So I think the Raiders can win this game. Browns Packers. I think the Browns will win this one. I think the Packers are in a very dangerous situation next year if they don't have Aaron Rodgers. So I have the Browns winning this one. And the Browns go 11-6, which means they actually tie with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the Steelers get the tiebreaker here. I'm not sure what led to the tiebreaker, but as of right now, the Steelers are number 2 in the division. Ravens are number 1 in the AFC North, followed by the Steelers and Browns, who are tied with the Steelers when the tiebreaker, and the Bengals are easily last place. The AFC North is going to be a tough one. Could make the debate it's the toughest division in the NFL next year. Of course, there's other, divisions, especially in the NFC. It'll be tough. But the Ravens are to come out on top of this time. The Steelers, they got a benefit of having an easier schedule last year, and it's going to be very tough this year, on paper at least. But yeah, so the Ravens are on top for the AFC North. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you come back for the next one. If there's any preferences of what divisions you'd like to see for the next video, let me know. As of right now, I'll probably be doing the AFC East, but if there's anything else you'd like me to do earlier on, let me know. And I'll see you next time. Bye.